Hello and welcome. Tonight, the Code of Conduct Bureau invites spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Festus Keyamo, to adopt his petition calling for probe of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar over corruption allegations. Those clamoring for interim government are daydreaming. Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong affirms President Buhari's resolve to hand over power on May the 29th. And governors-elect in more states of the Federation received their certificates of return, promised to build on the successes and achievements of the outgoing administrations.
And on business news tonight, Nigeria's total public debt stock increased by about 17% to 46.25 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2022, compared to 39.56 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2021. That's according to the Debt Management Office.
And on sports news tonight, CAF fixes the kickoff date for the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations for January the 13th, 2024, while maintaining the original name, Côte d'Ivoire 2023.
From Abuja, crisis rocking the All Progressives Grand Alliance deepens as two leaders of the party continue their war of words over the chairmanship of the party.
And in international news from London, a US journalist working for the Wall Street Journal has been formally arrested in Russia and accused of spying.
We begin in matters of the anti-corruption fight, where the Code of Conduct Bureau, CCB, has invited the spokesperson of the All Progressives Congress, APC Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Festus Keyamo, over a petition he filed requesting the probe of former Vice President and the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar. In the letter dated March 28th, the CCB states that the invitation is to enable Mr. Keyamo adopt his petition and to provide any additional information that might be material to its investigation. The CCB also asked the Minister of State for Labour and Employment to come along with one Michael Achimugu to assist with inquiries regarding the attachments to his petition. Mr. Keyamo had accused Mr. Abubakar of diverting public funds through special purpose vehicles while he was Nigeria's vice president. And those clamoring for interim government are daydreaming. These are the words of Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State after meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari today. He told State House correspondents that anyone supporting the idea of interim government would be working against the principle of democracy, which the president has vowed to uphold.
God forbid that. I will always say, God forbid that. Nigerians will always say, God forbid that. Not under the administration of President Buhari, who has been saying it every time, that I believe in democracy. I believe that after my tenure, I want to go and rest. He said it today, that I'm going back to Daura. And I told him that, yes, some of us will still disturb you in Daura. So this man has worked very well for democracy. He has initiated, laid down the foundation. We worked, we elected a president, and some people will still have a dream to even say they will scuttle this democracy. Many people will fight against it. So those who are still talking about it, I will say they are just dreaming. They are just doing daydreaming. Because those of us who work for this mandate believe that by the grace of God, President Buhari is going to bring a successor. And that successor is already Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Over in Benue, the State Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party has suspended the Kashi Philip-led Igorov Council Ward ESCO in Boko local government area in a move to nip in the bud the crisis that led to the suspension of the former national chairman of the party, Mr. Yocha Ayu. The acting state chairman of the PDP, Mr. Isaac Mefo, at a press briefing in Makurdi explains that the State Working Committee will henceforth take charge of the political affairs of the party in the ward to allow peace reign.
The committee deliberated on and reviewed the recent activities and matters of the administration of the affairs of the party in Igoru Council Ward, which have raised and aggravated tensions within the party in the area with possible threats of violence and breakdown of law and order. It is therefore the resolution of the State Working Committee that, pursuant to the powers conferred on it by Section 59, subsection 4 of the Constitution of the People's Democratic Party, as amended in 2017, and thus order as follows. 1, that the Executive Committee of the PDP in Igoru Council Ward is hereby suspended for a period of 1 month, pending necessary action which shall be taken to restore sanity, harmony, law and order in the party in that area. 2, that the State Working Committee shall, during this period, administer the affairs of the party in Igoru Council Ward in the best interest of the party, discipline, growth, and success.
And more candidates who emerged winners in the governorship and state houses of assembly elections have received their certificates of return as the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, continues the presentation of the documents for a second day. Here in the south of the country, in Ogun, Enugu, Akwa Ibom, Ekiti and Imo states, the winners received their certificates, promising to improve on their achievements and consolidate on the gains of the outgoing administrations.
It's day 2 of the handing over of certificates of return to the winners of the March 18th governorship and state houses of assembly elections across the country. In the south, the winners are calling on all, irrespective of party affiliation, to work together to deliver the dividends of democracy to Nigerians. This is re-echoed by the governor of Ogun State, Akwa Ibom, after receiving his certificate of return.
On behalf of all of us, I promise that we'll continue with our people-oriented policies and programs so that we can ensure that life continues to be more abundant and meaningful to all the good people of Ogun State. Again, I call on all of you, those that are here, those that are not here, to join hands with us in our continued, unrelentless determination to build the future of Ogun State together.
In the southeastern part of Nigeria, the governor-elect in Enugu State, Peter Mba, is suing for peace after the keenly contested poll.
History will never forgive us if at a time like this, when we should be pursuing the interests and development of our dear states, Enugu, we are still immersed in the pursuit of political gains and cleavages. It is why I extend my hands of fellowship to all my brothers with whom I ran the race for the hearts of Enugu electorates.
Over in Akwa Ibom State, the governor-elect, Pastor Umo Eno, commends INEC for conducting a peaceful and transparent election in the state, promising that his administration will consolidate on the development strides of the Udom Emmanuel administration.
Political campaigns are over. It's time to heal our land and further move the needle of development of our state collectively forward. In one accord and with unbroken spirit of kindredship, that is the spirit I will bring to the administration of this state.
Ekiti and Imo states, where the governorship election did not hold, elected members of the State House of Assembly received their certificates of return, promising to work with their state governments to achieve growth within the respective regions. As they commit to meeting and probably exceeding the expectation of citizens, these elected governors and lawmakers may well expect that their people will hold them to account in the coming days regarding their promises.
Meanwhile, up north, governors-elect and other winners in Borno, Katsina and Plateau states have also received their certificates today with a charge to keep their campaign promises and deliver the dividends of democracy to the people.
Governor-elect of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, receiving his certificate of return from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, alongside his deputy. The members of the House of Assembly will follow closely to collect the document sealing their commitment to service. The resident electoral commissioner, Toso Aguru, urged them not to fail to deliver the promises to the people when eventually they assume their respective positions. The governor-elect in his response assured that the people's expectations and aspirations on the new government will not be dashed.
No better testimony to what INEC has done than the spontaneous breakout of joy and rejoicing across the land of the Plateau and even beyond. I therefore want to salute the REC and his team for their steadfastness, their courage, their stubbornness, if I call it, in standing on the side of the law and the people.
In Katsina State, the process was more or less the same. Governor-elect Dr. Diko Umar Rada extended hands of fellowship to all opponents to bring their ideas to the table. He says the vision to build a Katsina state of the future in various sectors of human capital development, such as education and health, would require the input of everyone.
I want to assure the people of Katsina State I will try as much as possible, God willing, to deliver on the promises we have done to the people of Katsina State.
Incumbent Governor Professor Babagana Zulum of Borno State has another chance to impact the people of the state. He received the certificate of return from the National Commissioner in charge of Borno, Bauchi, and Yobe states, retired Major General Modibo Alkali. The 28 members elect for the State House of Assembly were also given their certificates of return at the Sir Kashim Ibrahim College of Education, Maiduguri.
I want to assure the people of Borno State that inshallah, I will not relent in my efforts in repositioning Borno State to get out.
Critical areas of development in the states, especially in northern Nigeria, are in dire need of government assistance, and these men have their work cut out for them. A rising youth population and the diversification of political parties, which was birthed from this electoral process in 2023, is bound to create an atmosphere where accountability on the part of these elected officials is the order of the day.
Meanwhile, here in Lagos, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has promised to redouble his efforts and leave the nation's commercial center better than he met it. He was speaking after being presented with his certificate of return at the INEC office in the Yaba area of the state.
4 years ago, the Almighty God gave me the privilege for the first time. Today, I stand before you. I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm more experienced, and certainly more committed to ever deliver on the contract that binds me, my deputy, and the good people of Lagos State. You have been with us every step of this journey, providing feedback, sharing your opinions, holding us accountable. And as we commence the next phase of this journey, that will take us to 2027 by the grace of Almighty God. I want you to continue to hold us accountable as your elected servants, as your servant leader in Lagos. We have made promises. Indeed, we have also delivered on so many of those promises. In the last few months, you've seen a lot of communications around what we've been able to modestly accomplish over the last almost 4 years now, in line with our team's agenda. Now, as we take the work to a new level of performance, we will complete all our ongoing projects that we've started and will ensure that new ones are funded, they are prioritized, and they will be delivered.
And it is not a hoorah everywhere. As you'll see in part 2 after the break, the candidate of the APC in the Akwa Ibom state governorship election, Akanimo Udofia, vows to challenge the outcome of the poll in court. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If it's just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Code of Conduct Bureau invites spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Festus Keyamo, to adopt his petition calling for probe of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar over corruption allegations. Those clamoring for interim governments are daydreaming, Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong declares, affirms President Buhari's resolve to hand over power on May the 29th. Governors elect in more states of the Federation receive their certificate of return, promised to build on the successes and achievements of the outgoing administrations. A U.S. journalist working for the Wall Street Journal has been formally arrested in Russia and accused of spying. And the last may not have been heard about the March 2023 governorship election in Akwa Ibom State, as the candidate of the APC in the election, Mr. Akanimo Udofia, has vowed to challenge the outcome of the poll. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, Mr. Udofia says the election was characterized by violence and voter suppression, which negates the contest of ideas and intellect, values and principles expected in a free and fair election. He claims that majority of the results collated by APC agents clearly indicate that he won the governorship election in the state. The 2023 governorship election has been concluded in 26 states of the Federation, and all eyes are now on May the 29th, when handover of power and swearing-in ceremonies will take place in these states. In the southeast, the governorship elections held in 3 out of the 5 states in the region, and they are Enugu, Abia and Ebonyi states. The residents of the various states look forward to the new administrations hitting the ground running to tackle headlong the various challenges confronting the areas and fulfill their campaign promises. This next report x-rays some of the challenges in these states and expectations of the people from the incoming administrations.
Infrastructure development to drive economic growth, social welfare for citizens, and the provision of adequate security for lives and property form part of the primary responsibilities of any government. These expectations influence the choice of candidates citizens supported and voted for in the just concluded governorship election. As winners have emerged and the people now know their incoming governors, the electorate can't wait for the May the 29th handover day to see the new administrations hit the ground running. In Enugu State, the coal city, the PDP governorship candidate Mr. Peter Mba emerged winner in a keenly contested election. However, one of the major challenges residents are expecting him to tackle headlong is a perennial water scarcity, which has been an issue for decades due to the topography of the state.
We have been having problem with water problem. Our tap has not been running. Please, I would like you people to come and look into our problem and solve it. We are suffering from water. Even in the midnight, we are walking. If I go back from here now, start looking for water.
Even though there is no significant improvement yet, the current administration had commenced comprehensive rehabilitation of the 9th Mile Crash program with solar-powered boreholes to ensure adequate supply of potable water from Oji River, Ajali and Iva water schemes to Enugu Metropolis. For the incoming administration of Mr. Mba, he promises that within 180 days in office, the perennial water challenge will become a thing of the past.
Let me pledge to you once again that I will serve you and dedicate every of the 1,460 days that make up this initial tenure of office to serving you. As we bring water to all homes in Enugu Metropolis in 180 days of our being sworn in.
In neighboring Ebonyi State, the present Speaker of the State House of Assembly and APC governorship candidate, Mr. Francis Nwifuru, is the governor-elect. By the people's assessment, it appears the present administration has arguably done well in the area of physical infrastructure, but the people want the incoming government to focus on tackling the problem of insecurity, provision of quality and affordable health care, among others.
I would like this coming government to tackle the issue of water. Water is a necessity. Whether you have money or not, you should be able to drink water. So I would like him to tackle the issue, give us potable water. And you know, don't forget that Ebonyi was endemic. The issue of Guinea worm is still there. So that we should not go back to what the former president of America, Jimmy Carter, helped us to solve.
Number one area is peace and security.
According to the governor-elect, he will leave no stone unturned in addressing the challenges affecting the people of the state, even as he promised to continue on the good legacies of the present administration.
I am proud to say that we will not deter in fulfilling our dear promises.
The incumbent governor of Abia State, Mr. Okezie Ikpeazu, failed to secure a successor from his fold as his party's candidate, Mr. Oke Ahiwe, lost to Dr. Alex Oti of the Labour Party. With the level of fanfare and jubilation that greeted the declaration of Dr. Alex Oti as governor, expectations are high. The people of Abia State want the incoming administration to look into the state's debt profile, address issues relating to salaries, accumulated pensions and arrears.
We need somebody who will look into the boss and now know that already the state is indebted. But to the tune of how much the state is indebted, for now, government is yet to explain. So other things, the infrastructures, government said they have been able to, especially in the educational sector. The government came up with in bringing in the old boys into, seeing how you can restate the educational system.
The governor-elect, Dr. Oti, promises to ensure adequate and prompt payment of salaries and pensions and the provision of quality infrastructure.
By the end of this year, every outstanding salaries and pensions would have been decreased.
Promises made, hopes are high. All eyes are now on the incoming administrations to change the narrative and deliver good governance to the people. And hopefully, after 4 years, it can be said that the mandate given to them was worth it.
Let's head over to our Abuja studios for more stories. Markwe Yusuf is standing by. Hi, Markwe.
Hello, Millicent. We're back to the issues of politics. Well, despite court judgment on the leadership of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, it appears the end is yet to be seen in the crisis rocking the party as Mr. Victor Oye and Mr. Edozie Njoku engage in a war of words over who is the authentic chairman of the party. Addressing the news conference in Abuja, Mr. Njoku says by the judgment of the Supreme Court delivered on March the 24th this year, he is the national chairman of the party. But in a swift reaction, Mr. Oye has debunked the claim, saying no judgment was delivered by the Supreme Court on March the 24th, and as such, he remains the APGA national chairman.
The tussle for the leadership position of the All Progressives Grand Alliance continues. Following a ruling of the Supreme Court delivered on the 24th of March 2023, which corrected a typographical error in the lead judgment of the Apex Court delivered on the 14th of October 2021, Mr. Edozie Njoku has laid claim to the chairmanship seat of the party.
As we all remember, at the lower court, it was affirmed that the Convention of Owerri was a legitimate convention and that I was suspended as the national chairman of APGA. Finally, the Supreme Court has squashed all that. They have not reaffirmed me. What they have done is that they have no business with that aspect. What they've told us is that the removal of Chief Edozie Njoku as the national chairman of APGA is an internal affair, and it is not justiciable. You cannot discuss the removal of Chief Edozie Njoku in any court of law apart from in the party.
However, without mincing words, Mr. Victor Oye insists he remains the national chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, having been elected at a convention of the party monitored by INEC in Awka in 2019.
The judgments of the court, the orders remain as they were on October 14, 2021. One, that the appeal by Judo Keke, because Judo Keke was the appellant, that the appeal by Judo Keke, those was not an appellant, that Judo Keke's appeal is hereby dismissed. Please, for goodness sake, when something is dismissed, it means there's no life in it again. It is dead and buried. It cannot resurrect. Then two, that the judgment of the court below, which is the Court of Appeal Kano, is hereby affirmed. And what was the judgment of the Court of Appeal Kano? The Court of Appeal Kano affirmed me as the national chairman of APGA, not in dispute.
Be a brother's keeper is the motto of the All Progressives Grand Alliance. But this battle for the #1 seat of the party appears to be turning that motto into a mirage.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's total public debt stock increases to over 46 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2022, according to data from the Debt Management Office. Well, that's some business news. Do join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. In other news, the federal government is accusing those it describes as some powerful persons at the subnationals of encouraging the ongoing deforestation in the country. The Minister of Environment, Mohammed Abdullahi, apportioned the blame today during the 69th ministerial weekly briefing at the State House. He said the task force set up to apprehend the protracted menace of tree felling for charcoal have faced difficulties in enforcement. Our State House correspondent Gloria Omiezuke reports.
Nigeria's pledged to the international community to halt deforestation as well as the protracted menace of charcoal production to meet an ever-expanding demand. This and other issues regarding the Ogoni land cleanup formed part of major conversations at this week's ministerial briefing. At the 69th briefing, the Minister of Environment illuminates the intractable task of curbing deforestation for charcoal production, indicating that the federal government's efforts are constantly frustrated by some interests.
The activities of people in the charcoal business, with all due respect, is being supported by a number of powerful people at the subnational level. So, and if we try to do some level of enforcement, they say, look, we own this territory. You are federal government. You cannot come and enforce your rules or policies on us. So that is part of what is the challenge in terms of, controlling these activities, But in spite of that, the task force is still there, going after some of them, on ad hoc basis, trying to find out who and who are involved, who licensed you, who we are supplying to, so we're doing our best to curb it as much as possible.
The president's ambitious target of planting 25 million trees by 2030 under its afforestation policy may be on course, but appears far-fetched. The minister assures this might not be the case for the cleanup of Ogoni land.
So at the moment we are back to the trenches. We are going to roll out the implementation plan. I can assure you that within the next couple of days, I assure you, Mr. President is going to do the flag up or the groundbreaking of the Center of Excellence for remediation, and then the power project and the hospital. Already the remediation of the shoreline is ongoing.
The Environment Minister equally asked state governments to live up to expectations by effectively utilizing ecological funds and stop politicizing adherence to the National Environmental Sanitation Policy. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Well, away from environmental matters, the Supreme Court has dismissed an appeal filed by former Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, seeking to disqualify Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress as a presidential candidate of his political party. A 5-man panel of the Apex Court, led by Justice Inyang Okoro, dropped the suit on the ground that it was statute barred, having been filed outside the time prescribed by law. Wajuba was challenging the nomination of Tinubu on the ground that he did not disclose the source of his 100 million naira, which he paid to obtain the nomination and expression of interest form in contravention of Section 90, subsection 3 of the Electoral Act 2022. He also argued that the APC did not comply with the federal character principle in the composition of its National Working Committee. He had asked the Supreme Court to cancel the processes that produced Mr. Tinubu as a candidate, having lost at the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal on the same ground that his case lacked merit. And staying with legal matters, Justice Zainab Abubakar of the Federal High Court here in Abuja has granted bail to a journalist and publisher of an online news outlet, Mr. Akwa Ibom, to the tune of 500,000 naira with one surety in like sum. Justice Abubakar had last Monday remanded Mr. Jalingo in Kuje Correctional Center after he was arraigned by the Nigeria Police Force for allegedly publishing a story that was considered an insult to one Mrs. Elizabeth Ayade, who is the wife of the younger brother of the Cross River State Governor, Mr. Ben Ayade. He, however, pleaded not guilty to the charge. While adjourning the case till May the 31st for trial, Justice Abubakar held that the defendant should remain in prison custody pending the perfection of his bail conditions. And that's all from our Abuja studios. It's back now to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Markwe. Well, we continue with the courts here in Lagos, where the state government today arraigned Christian School Limited and some of its staff members over the death of 12-year-old student Whitney Adeniran, who died during the school's inter-house sport on February the 19th, 2023. They were all arraigned before Justice Oyedemola Ogala of the Lagos High Court Ikeja on a 2-count charge of involuntary manslaughter and acting in a reckless and negligent manner that endangered her life. When the counts were read to the defendants, they all pleaded not guilty. After their pleas, lawyers to the defendants asked the court to grant their clients bail. The Attorney General of Lagos, who led the prosecution, did not object. In her ruling, Justice Ogala granted the school's principal and vice principal bail in the sum of 20 million naira each, with 2 sureties, and the sum of 10 million naira each. The other two defendants were granted bail in the sum of 10 million naira each, with 2 sureties and like sum pending the hearing and determination of the charge against them. The court adjourned till May 25th, June 1st, 8th and 15th for commencement of trial.
The necessity of charging the school and the authorities is to send a message to everyone in the state that be you a school, be you a corporate organization, once you are involved with people gathering a large number of people at an event, at a function, you need to pay special attention to the safety of the people who will be at that function or that venue. It's very important because as we have seen in this case, negligent acts, whether you take an action or you refuse to take an action, can lead to fatalities. And we have seen one in this case. And we have brought this case forward just for the courts to be able to pronounce on the guilt or otherwise of the people who have been charged. And this will send a strong message that in Lagos, we take the safety of our people seriously, and we believe firmly that if you breach the law, there must be consequences.
Staying with legal matters, some members of the Islamic movement of Nigeria, also known as Shiites today, staged a protest, but this was right after Justice Obiora Egwatu of the Federal High Court Abuja dismissed a suit by the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, and his wife Zina, in which they sought to compel the National Immigration Service, NIS, to issue them international passports. Delivering judgment, Justice Egwatu held that the applicants did not provide sufficient evidence to show that their passports were either seized, destroyed, lost, or the relevant agency was unwilling to reissue them another one. He held that from the position of the applicants, it was not shown that it was the Immigration Service who took their passports, but rather the passports were destroyed or lost in 2015 when their residence was attacked by security operatives. He dismissed the suit. El-Zakzaki and wife had January 2022 filed the Fundamental Rights Reserved Enforcement suit against the Immigration Service and its Controller General for alleged refusal to issue new international passports to them. And following that ruling, some members of the movement staged a protest in the nation's capital to demand for the release of the passport. They marched to the Federal Secretariat at Abuja carrying banners, placards with various inscriptions containing their demand. We understand the protesters were later dispersed by police personnel deployed to the scene. And to infrastructure development in the Niger Delta, where the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, says work will soon begin on the 3.65-kilometer bridge linking Okrika and other local government areas in Rivers State to Port Harcourt, the state capital. The interventionist agency has also promised to complete the 6-kilometer Obwama internal roads in Degema local government area of the state and other ongoing projects in the region. The NDDC managing director gave the assurances during a tour of the areas where the projects are sited.
This 3.6-kilometer bridge linking Okrika and other adjoining coastal local governments to Port Harcourt, the River State capital, is one of the stalled projects of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. When completed, it is expected to reduce gridlock and travel time on the popular East-West Road, which is why the governing board of the commission is on an inspection tour as part of efforts to complete its construction.
We'll also get our engineering department to come and look at the measurement properly to be sure that, yes, we're not mistaken. And we're also going to involve the contractor too to know why the project is stalled. If it is something that has to do with payments, we have to look at how to mobilize back to site. Because it's a major project that links Port Harcourt main township to Okrika town. And if this project is completed, based on how it was conceived, it is also to reduce the pressure on the traffic on the East-West Road.
This team also pays a courtesy visit to His Royal Majesty Ateke Tom at his palace in Okochiri. In Degema local government, the NDDC Managing Director restates the resolve of the interventionist agency to complete all ongoing projects across the Niger Delta, including the 6-kilometer Obwama internal road.
Every community is equal, so if projects here are stalled, we have to come and see why the project are stalled. So that is why we're here.
The NDDC boss also met with ex-agitator Mujahid Asari Dokubo, who assures him of a cordial working relationship.
The community is saturated with NDDC projects that are abandoned. So it will be like Oliver Twist asking for more. We have a shop protection that has not been done. We have the secondary school renovation that was not done. We have the primary school renovation that was not done. We have roads that were not completed. So I think if my brother will assist in bringing this thing to reality, we are satisfied. We are not going to ask for that.
When completed, these projects will have a multiplier effect on the economy of coastal communities in the affected areas.
Business News is next with Laddie Williams.
Thanks, Millicent. In business news, Nigeria's total public debt stock, which includes domestic and external debt of the federal government of Nigeria and the subnational government, rose to 46.25 trillion naira, about $103 billion in the fourth quarter of 2022, from 39.56 trillion in the fourth quarter of 2021. According to the Debt Management Office, total domestic debt stock was 27.55 trillion naira, while total external debt stock was at 18.70 trillion naira. Amongst the reasons for the increase in the total public debt are stock with new borrowings by the federal government of Nigeria and subnational governments, primarily to fund budget deficits and execute projects. According to United Nations, 64.3 million Nigerians do not have enough food to consume. United Nations' latest food security update, the World Bank revealed that food insufficiency in Nigeria rose to 29% to 32% over the last 3 months. Stated that the overall food and nutrition situation in Nigeria and other West African countries is challenging for a large share of their populations. The organization says the food security situation in West Africa is expected to worsen as the dry season progresses in the months ahead, while domestic food price inflation remains. And it's another positive close at local bourse, and John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market report. The equities market has sustained midweek gains as the NGX closed more than 1.5% in the green. Glad to say that we have regained our 54,000 points level and hope that will grow on that. And then the market cap looking really good at 29.641 trillion naira. Looking at the activity chart, this captures that there was a whole lot of activity in the market today. That's why volume is up more than 300% compared to yesterday. Are we looking at $1 billion? Well, let's look forward to that and hope that it comes really soon. But what that has also told us is that there was a whole lot of activity and it went in one direction. What direction was that? The bull tells us that it was in a positive direction. Now, let's look at those who drove the market and made it happen today. O&O tops the list. We see it gaining 9.98% to close at 5 naira 40 kobo. But in spite of this, we've seen the oil and gas counter unmoved for 3 trading sessions. Now, we need to find out what's going on there. We also see soon as sure that MTN Nigeria also made the list. On the flip side, we see the losers being led by PZ Industries. Well, not very worrying because we see they have gained in 2 trading sessions. We also see Champs PLC and Unilever. So it's a positive market, hopefully to stay that way at the close of trade tomorrow. That's a stock market report. I'm Ini John Mekwa. He's back to you.
And that's business news. Back to Millicent with the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Laddie. And U.S. journalist Evan Gershkovich has been arrested in Russia. He was accused of spying while working for the Wall Street Journal. He was working in the city of Yekaterinburg at the time of his detention. The Kremlin claims he was caught red-handed. The Wall Street Journal vehemently denies the allegations, but the White House has condemned his detention. Here's Simon Pusit with other international stories and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. A US journalist working for the Wall Street Journal has been formally arrested in Russia and accused of spying. Evan Gershkovich, an experienced Russia reporter, was working in Yekaterinburg at the time of the detention. The Wall Street Journal said it was deeply concerned for his safety and vehemently denied the allegations against him. The Kremlin claimed the reporter had been caught red-handed. In a written statement, the Wall Street Journal said it vehemently denies the allegations from the FSB, seeks his immediate release, and that the paper stands in solidarity with Evan and his family. A number of people are believed to have been killed after 2 US Army helicopters crashed in Kentucky. The incident involved aircraft from the 101st Airborne Division, which said it had resulted in several casualties. The state's governor said it was tough news and that fatalities are expected. Local news reports say the incident happened at about 9:35 p.m. local time, and as many as 9 people may have been killed.
Kentucky State Police Post 1 received a report shortly before 10 p.m. on March 29th of an aircraft incident here in Trigg County. Troopers responded to the area and came across the wreckage of 2 military Blackhawks. We have been working in conjunction with the United States military to assess this scene.
Brazil's ex-president Jair Bolsonaro has returned from his self-imposed exile in the United States. The far-right former leader landed in the capital Brasilia on a commercial flight from Florida, where he spent the past 3 months. Supporters draped in Brazil's flag shouted and cheered, but the former leader was led out by a side exit. It is the first time he is back in his home country since his supporters stormed Congress on the 8th of January. He faces an investigation into whether he incited the rioters. Oscar Pistorius will argue he should be paroled over the murder of his girlfriend Riva Steenkamp at a hearing in South Africa on Friday. Once the darling of the Paralympic movement for pushing for greater recognition and acceptance of disabled athletes, Pistorius shot dead Riva Steenkamp, a model and law student, in his bathroom on Valentine's Day in 2013. The former South African Paralympic superstar athlete was convicted of murder in 2016 and was jailed for 13 years and 5 months. Pope Francis's health is improving after he was taken to hospital with a respiratory condition. That's according to the Vatican.
Figlio dello Spirito Santo. La pace sia con voi.
E con il tuo spirito.
He was admitted to Gemelli Hospital on Wednesday for what was initially said to be a scheduled checkup. In a statement on Thursday, a Vatican spokesman said treatment for the 86-year-old pontiff was continuing. And King Charles III has become the first British monarch to address the German Parliament.
Es ist eine große Ehre, heute bei Ihnen zu sein.
On the second day of his first overseas trip since becoming king, the monarch praised what he called the vital leadership shown by Germany and the United Kingdom in helping Ukraine. There was also laughter in the Bundestag when, in fluent German, the king touched upon the England women's football victory at the Euros against Germany.
Begegnungen zwischen unseren Fußballmannschaften.
In his speech, which lasted just over 20 minutes and drew standing applause, the 74-year-old repeatedly drew comparisons between Germany and the United Kingdom and emphasised the deep connection between the people of both countries.
Britons come to admire Berlin's vibrant culture and nightlife, making up Europe's largest visitor group to this wonderful city. So we are still admiring of each other's culture, dependent upon each other's economies and inspired by each other's ideas. This friendship meant so much to my beloved mother, the late Queen, who often spoke of the 15 official visits she made to Germany, including her 5 state visits.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, have officially fixed January the 13th, 2024 as kickoff date for the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, with the opening match scheduled to take place at the Alassane Ouattara Stadium in Abidjan. The 4-week tournament, which will retain its original name, Côte d'Ivoire 2023, pits Africa's best 24 nations, and they will officially conclude the games on February the 11th, 2024. 6 nations, that's Algeria, Morocco, South Africa, Tunisia, Burkina Faso, and Senegal, have secured qualification to Côte d'Ivoire this past weekend. A 2-time Africa Cup of Nations winner coach Hervé Renard has been appointed as the new coach of the French women's national football team after the sacking of Corinne Diacre. The 54-year-old Renard resigned as coach of Saudi Arabia earlier in the week after leading them to a memorable group stage win over Argentina at last year's World Cup in Qatar. Renard, a 2-time African Cup of Nations winner with Zambia and Côte d'Ivoire, takes over less than 4 months before the Women's World Cup begins in Australia and New Zealand. In tennis, 14-time French Open champion Rafael Nadal has received a replica of a sculpture that was unveiled at Roland Garros in May 2021 at his academy earlier today. President of the French Tennis Federation, Gilles Moreton, and former player and now director of Roland Garros, Amélie Mauresmo, traveled to Monaco, Spain to present the replica to Nadal in person. The replica, which is 1/10 the size of the original, will be housed in the Rafa Nadal Museum, which exhibits all the trophies Nadal has won throughout his career. And the International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach says criticism by some European governments of a plan to see a full return of Russian and Belarusian athletes to international sport is deplorable and cuts into the autonomy of sport. The IOC on Wednesday issued a set of recommendations for international sports federations that will allow Russian and Belarusian athletes to return since their ban last year following Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. But this, however, does not include the 2024 Olympics in Paris. And that's sports news. I'm Victor Matthias. Thank you for watching. It's back to Millicent with the wrap of the news at 10.
Thank you, Victor. And the main news again. The Code of Conduct Bureau today invited the spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Festus Keyamo, to adopt his petition calling for probe of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar over corruption allegations. The Governor of Plateau State and Director General of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Simon Lalong, said those clamoring for interim government are daydreaming. He affirmed President Buhari's resolve to hand over power on May the 29th. And that's news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.